morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your patience in this morning's delay. I know that everyone was caught up in the traffic, and we're very pleased to see you here. I'd like to formally welcome you to the Bonn press conference of the Afghan Women's Network. My name is Jennifer Rowell of CARE International, and it is my distinguished honor to welcome these wonderful Afghan women activists from Afghanistan who have been here for the past few days, meeting with foreign ministers and senior policymakers in several countries around the world, sharing their message of the Afghan women who they have been consulting over the past year in various forums, roundtables, collecting ideas, collecting opinions, consolidating those opinions, and finally arriving to Bonn with a declaration which they will be talking about, which summarizes the work and the voices of these thousands of women over 20 provinces around the country. So it is my distinguished pleasure to welcome this group. I will pass the floor to them straight away. Just before that, I'd like to give you a sense of the format of this morning. We will start by hearing a few minutes from three of our principal panelists, Samira Hamidi, Shinkai Karakhel, and Mahbouba Siraj. They will speak for a few minutes each. Then we will open the floor to your questions. All questions are welcome. Please indicate when you have a question and do use the microphone when I give you the nod. And then our other distinguished guests will be able to answer those questions. So I'd like to pass the floor to Samira Hamidi, who is the country director of the Afghan Women's Network in Afghanistan.
Thank you, Jennifer. Very good morning to all of you. Thank you very much, media colleagues, for coming here to cover the press conference organized by Afghan Women's Network. One of the purposes of today's press conference is the launch of Afghan Women's Declaration. Before I talk further on the launch of on what this declaration is, this declaration is the result of the advocacy work of Afghan Women's Network from the past almost 2 years, particularly from the particular 1 year. And this declaration is the outcome of consultation with 500 women in more than 23 provinces throughout Afghanistan, and some of very remote provinces in Afghanistan in the south, where they are focusing on three main areas: on the international community's commitment beyond 2014, on peace and integration in Afghanistan, as well as the transition in Afghanistan. And my colleagues will be speaking further on the other points. And this declaration is also something that we really would like you, dear colleagues, to pass our messages to policymakers through your communications that you have, because this covers the voices of 500,000 of Afghan women. It's not a group of women who have prepared this declaration. One of the important content of this declaration is touching about peace and reintegration in Afghanistan. What does peace look like for Afghan women in Afghanistan, and where do we want to go with the peace process in Afghanistan? The recommendation or the outcome of our consultation says that women would want the peace in Afghanistan. Women are tired of war. They would like to have a peaceful Afghanistan where they can enjoy their life, but a peace which is on internationally accepted standards, which is not negotiated on the women's rights as well as on the achievements, on the past 10 years achievements of Afghan women. Afghan women are also recommending that the peace process needs to be a process where women are part of it. Afghan women are part of discussions, Afghan women are part of decisions, as well as Afghan women are part of negotiations. When there are negotiations around the table, we would like to see us sitting around the table and discussing the issues of Afghanistan, the national issues of Afghanistan, particularly the development of our country and the stability of Afghanistan. Another important point that we have as a result of our consultation is that we need a peace process which is inclusive. which the peace process, which actually has all Afghans owning it, and Afghans are also on the lead of the peace process. And the recommendation is that we Afghans need to sit together, to discuss, to consult, and to organize a national dialogue where Afghans throughout Afghanistan, particularly the women's organizations, the women's group, those women who are very active throughout Afghanistan, they sit and discuss the needs of Afghan women. How do the peace process looks like for Afghan women, and how they can actually contribute on bringing peace in Afghanistan. And finally, one of the very critical recommendations that the women are telling us, and they have asked us to deliver this through you, to policymakers, to those who are contributing for development of Afghanistan, is that any process in Afghanistan needs to be monitored, particularly the peace process. The ongoing peace process in Afghanistan at the moment, it needs an independent monitoring focus. An independent monitoring focus by a group of women activists, by a group of women organizations who can first of all focus and see how the peace process is moving, how women are involved, and secondly, the women who are the part of the peace process in High Peace Council and Prevention Peace Council, how they are contributing, what are their constraints, and how we outside the High Peace Council can contribute. I'll end up with this, and now I would like to ask Ms. Shinka Karohe to discuss about our findings on the transition process.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for your presence and interest for today's our declaration launching, which we have consultation with 500 women leaders throughout the country. The second issue, which is women again and again emphasize and interested to share with the rest of the world, is transition process. For women of Afghanistan, transition is not only security issue, but transition is more than a security issue. We propose different approach which gives equal values and weight to the rule of law, economic development, accountable justice, good governance, economic development, and security. Regarding the security, we further emphasizing on women protection, which should be defined in the security transformation. And also, we demand how the women's security become a measurable indicator and monitoring and evaluation of this transition. So that's why it's very much important for women of Afghanistan, the world only not focus on military issue, on number of the police and army, but more than that. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for coming here and listening to a group of Afghan women who are representing about 500,000 of their sisters in Afghanistan to gather here in Bonn and try to get our voices across. We are not a part of the delegation inside, but we are a part of the delegation outside. So what we are really trying to do is to get the voices of Afghan women out. The part in the section that I'm going to be talking to you, it's about the international community's support to the Afghan women. What the Afghan women really don't want to do is for them to go back in being the Afghan women of 2001. We cannot go backwards. What we have achieved during the last 10 years in Afghanistan, we would like to continue, and we would like to continue building on it. And we could not have achieved what we have achieved without the support of the international community. So we are very thankful to the international community for giving their support to the Afghan women and for us to be able to achieve whatever, all of the things that we have today. The international community can help Afghanistan in many ways. There are some things that we still, as the people of Afghanistan, we are responsible in doing, and we are responsible for taking, for being the first ones that we start doing that. But there are some areas and the growth of Afghanistan which we will need the support of the international community very much. And one of them, which is very important at this point, is our how should I say, the regional cooperation. The regional cooperation with our neighbors is extremely important for the future of Afghanistan, because if we don't have that, then the peace really will not happen. At this point, right now in Afghanistan, for example, the question of insurgency might be something that the world is talking about, and we are doing something about it. But as far as the sanctuaries are concerned, for all of these insurgents, the world is really not talking about it. So the sanctuaries are still there. So this is one of the things that we really would need the help of the international community to help us solve this. I would like to leave the floor, because there's quite a lot more on many areas that we can talk about, but we are open for any kind of a question, and I'm going to leave the floor for the rest of my colleagues and all of you to ask the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ustad. The floor is now open. Would anyone like to make ask a question? And do refer to the declarations which are in front of you, which give you far more detail to the points that the women were speaking of.
Good morning.
If you could use your microphone, we'd appreciate it.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, good morning. Do I have to approach? No. Okay. I'd like to know, of course, it's very much understandable what you're saying, that you need the women to have to play a big role in the peace process and all. But what I wonder, do you really think that negotiating with the Taliban and getting the women involved in the peace process at the same time is really, really possible?
Would you like me to answer that?
No, or whoever wants. I mean, don't you think that in the end it's not possible to have both?
Is it on? Thank you. I'm Wajma Pro, a part of the Afghan Women's Central Delegation on women's inclusion in peace and reconciliation process. As the process started, Afghan women have been seen as an obstacle, while our experience on the ground shows that Afghan women can be the promoters of peace. Because there are two aspects of the peace and reconciliation process that we're talking about. One is the political aspects, which are negotiations with the Taliban. The other aspect of it is reconciliation at the national level. And what we are also asking for is that Afghanistan as a country that has gone through 30 years of war, we need to start national dialogues within Afghanistan, among Afghans themselves, to start reconciling with each other and actually fight and address some of the trust deficit that exists in any post-conflict country. So that is where the women's role is very critical, because we have not made the war. We have not been part of the war. We have been part of the peacemaking at that prevention level. When it comes to the political aspects, what we are saying is that the opposition of Afghan government should be used to see us in the decision making. The Taliban, who have had a different approach of leadership and also governance in the past decade, they have to see women talking about peace and negotiating with them. And that's the reason that we are asking for what we are asking for the international community to really support women's inclusion as part of the decision makers in the process. Not only as that they consult us, but we should be at the negotiating table. I agree that we have a lot of concerns, and the women that we have consulted, they have a lot of concerns that if we are not there, decisions might be made that will hinder our progress, that will take away our rights. For us to preserve those rights, we need to negotiate with the Taliban or all the political opposition, and they should be used to getting used to see us in the negotiations.
Thank you, John. Anyone else?
Just want to add, regarding this, how is it possible or not possible, as we have experience of like 50 years war, and going back to 2001, you see that everything is possible. But how we could start, this is not the time that how we could start. We can't ignore them and we can't be forever under violence, and we must stop violence. And this is that all Afghan are tired of this fighting and we are thirsty for peace. But the question that how we could start, this is the time that as a negotiationist, the part of that we should enter and we should be part of all that. And I'm sure that women of Afghanistan could play a great role as a peace builder in Afghanistan, as we had great experience of women, like before the civil war, before that women would play a great role. But now, this is the time that there should be a guarantee as well, because now the question is that how we could talk with Taliban. There is that we are asking the government and international community that there should be a guarantee, because the Taliban, that they are also want to stop fighting or killing. We must come together and we must to see each other and we must to start talking and to come to a conclusion.
I also would like to add that it's up to the support of the international community and political commitment of the support of our government, because in the beginning nobody could accept us as an angry, as a molester, but now we got more votes than men. So if you come to the parliament of Afghanistan, women were in the previous time, they also, most of them came back to the parliament, but most of the men lost. So it's up to how the government can include it as a process. For sure, finally we will be accepted. But also women are very much expert how to mobilize the community, the families, the grassroots. So that's why we are half of the population, we are also half of the solution as well.
Thank you. Akita Jan.
I would say only or conclude with one sentence. It is need of political commitment of international community for being possible. Political support, political commitment of international community, then it will be possible to sit with the Taliban to accept women in the negotiation table.
Second question. And those sitting in the back row, feel free to approach one of the empty microphones if you have something to ask. Yes, please.
Which women's rights are in danger at the moment? Where's the most danger at the moment?
Soraya, would you be able to answer?
Hello everybody, my name is Soraya Faksa. I'm a member of the AWA delegation. Unfortunately, war at any part of the world could create lots of cause and problem for the first and the most affected group will be women and children, and same in Afghanistan. As the report of many reports shows, 80% of women of Afghanistan, 87% of women of Afghanistan at least experience one type of violence in their daily life. Means that when they are not law enforced, when there is no economical development, when there is no monitoring system on what government promises to them, when there is warlord in power still, and there is violence against women dramatically continue in the country. It's not only in the rural area, even in the cities, it's happened. That's very clear, we cannot ignore. But beside that, there is many other achievements to end the violence in the country as well. Currently, we have a violence against women's law, which is the best achievement, but has to stop violence against women and criminalize that one and put them in the court. But and even the Constitution of Afghanistan very clearly protects women's rights. But the smooth and many other convention of elimination of violence against women, international laws have been ratified and signed by the government of Afghanistan. But the smooth of the implementation of those laws are still in the hand of the warlords in so many areas where unfortunately still they are the top of high authority and still they are ruling the area.
If I may shortly answer your question. If there is no peace in a society, everyone's life is in danger. That's what I would say first of all. But as my colleagues say, the most vulnerable will be the women. Because they don't have, particularly in a society that we live in Afghanistan, basically women are more dependent on men, and their mobility is restricted. To answer your question is also that who are the women who are mostly at risk, if I have understood your question correctly. Women at different level at the moment who are working, who are trying to contribute, either if they are part of the government, if they are part of civil society, women's organizations, even if they are working within international organizations, Afghans working within the international organizations. I think there is an uncertainty on how are we going forward, and that's where we see our lives at risk. This is how I'll answer, because at the moment the situation looks like how the peace process is going on, where what the transition would look like via 2014, and how will the achievements of Afghan women will be sustained. Also, I think at the front line are all those who fight for women's rights. At the front line are those who fight for women's rights. This will be my conclusion remarks.
Thank you. I think Samir answered almost which I want to say, but I would like to say that those women do extraordinary work, stood on their own feet, opposed slavery, and raised fights against all kinds of violence, and claim their rights. They are at risk.
I also want to say that a critical look on the ground in Afghanistan would also show you that in 1 week we had almost 4 cases of sexual assault on women, particularly in the provinces where the arming of militias are taking place as part of the transition process. So while the women of Afghanistan are supportive of the Afghan National Security Forces coming on its own, but if it's not done in the right way, and the transition does not take place responsibly so that there is more governance aspect, not only military transfer, then the situation of women will become worse, even though you would not have a political change, but on the ground the situation would change. Well, for example, in Kunduz, one of the northern eastern regions, we have some of the highest rates of rape by the tribal commanders, who are the ALP, the Afghan local police, that's being actually armed and that's being used by international forces as a sort of short-term measures of security. So that's a very dangerous step that they have been taking as part of the transition process. And we, as the Afghan women advocates, we have been advocating against arming militias, because what we believe in is that we don't need to, in 2014, we don't need to have 300,000 armed men who don't know how to use those guns. And 2014, what we need is a police force, even half of that 300,000, but police force who believe in rule of law and who can actually protect the communities from the misuse and abuse of the commanders and the tribal communities. And the other point, I want to go back to our discussion of peace and reconciliation. I'm a bit hesitant that we shouldn't, we are not very too optimistic, and we don't want to sound very naive that everything is going to happen. What we are asking for is also that the accountability, the transitional justice part of the process. The crimes that are being carried out under the name of the insurgency, suicide attacks on daily basis, the rockets, the Afghans are losing their lives on daily basis, just like the international forces. So when we talk about the peace and reintegration process, we cannot forget that. There has to be an accountability, there has to be a crime control on these crimes before somebody is reintegrated. What we are talking about is the political dynamics, but when it comes to the technicalities and the implementation of it at the community level, I, as for example, as a community member, will not forgive somebody who has raped my daughter. Will I? I will not. But I need to be part of a process where I can actually express my anger. I can express the concern of justice that I want. And if I'm sure that this person will not rape another woman or will not close the door of school for girls, then I can be part of the process.
Thank you very much, Rajma. Just before we take another question, I'd like to ask Samira to talk about one of the recommendations that has been presented to several foreign ministers over the last couple of days.
Thank you, Jennifer. One of the recommendations based on your question, which is very related, is the outcome of the consultation, of course, is unfortunately there's a lack of a mechanism and a system for which we can actually prevent and protect women at risk overall. The key recommendation has come out of the consultation is that we need national and international standard mechanisms and systems to be put in place for Afghan women, particularly for Afghan women at risk. Nationally, for example, if a woman is at risk in Herat province, she should know a place in another province, or at least in Kabul city, where she can actually approach an organization and she can be escorted, or she can be evacuated from the situation that she has. Similarly, if the life of a woman is seriously endangered throughout Afghanistan, not even possible in Kabul, there's need for an international system to be put in place by supporters of Afghan women in Afghanistan, so that they can be escorted outside of the country from time to time. This is very much linked to the security indicators of the focus of security indicators, which comes on the transition, because as and when we move with the transition in other provinces, right now we have 7 provinces transition. When it goes to the more insecure provinces, this risk can increase, and the urgency of this system and mechanism is very much needed.
Thank you. Any further questions? Yes, please.
Sorry, I would like to ask a second question. If you rightly claim that you have to be part of the peace process and you have to sit down with the other people, so how come you're not part of the delegation here in Bonn?
We have so many going there, so we already have.
Who would like to
Actually, it is very important to tell you that whenever women's rights activists are fighting for a right, we are fighting for the rights of half of the population of Afghanistan. And whenever we have a representative there, means that our voices, the important message is our voices be heard by the authority, by the top people, by the decision-making people. We did this advocacy for a long time, almost for a year, prepared for the Bonn conference. So the result that today 16 women from civil society are present at the Bonn conference. And the 13 women should be there, but unfortunately 2 of them, due to their passport reasons or this kind of visa, could not appear, could not show up there up to now. But 11 other from government authority, government employee are there. This is the 4th conference that we had this kind of achievement and have this number of women in this conference. So I think that's enough for us, and the reason that we are here is the advocacy and lobbying before the conference, and meeting number of ministers, number of people, and raising more voices that what we need to the agenda, it should consider, and it should be part of the agenda. And our representative, Selay Ghaffar, who is representing civil society, is there. She's a speak person, and she's an AWA member. She's our colleague, and she was part of our advocacy and lobbying for almost the entire year that we did this advocacy for Bonn conference.
So you do have a representative?
Yes, we do.
And you said 16 all in all? Out of how many in the delegation?
16 women are there, out of 54. 16. Yeah.
Out of 34.
Yes. That's good.
Myra, would you like to add?
Yes. Thank you very much. And I just wanted to add what my colleague said. We are representing Afghan Women Network, which is one of the largest network in Afghanistan. And we are almost advocating for inclusion of women in all decision-making process since 17 years.
We started our consultation process after a group of women returned from the London conference, while one of us only was able to go to the London conference and share the voice of half of the population. Then we decided for a greater mobilization. And we started this advocacy process almost since 2 years. Today we are very much proud that 13 women out of 34 women, people form a delegation, all women, which is the result of our advocacy and our work to ensure the women participation in the Bonn conference.
And one thing I want to add, for advocacy work, let me tell you that Afghan Women's Network also advocate for our women minister to be included in official delegation.
Yes.
So that's why in the London conference we have no woman minister a part of official delegation. So
Now
we
the
also
whole-
are there.
Now the whole female minister.
Yeah, they are a part of that.
Can I take a further question? Please.
Good morning, my name is Slat, and I have a question about your recommendations to the Afghan people, because we heard some recommendations to the international community and the Afghan government. So what are your recommendations to the Afghan people? How will you change the mentality of the minds of Afghan men? Because whenever I go to Afghanistan, I'm very proud of Afghan families sending their daughters to university, but they won't send their daughter-in-law to university. What are your recommendations? How will we change this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, it is the reality of women's lives that in Afghanistan we have a very patriarchal system, and the negative tradition affecting on every moment of life. We believe that the people of Afghanistan needs to be responsible and needs to be unified and needs to learn to accept each other. And women are half of the population, and they should not be ignored by the men of Afghanistan. There are a lot of reasons that why women are not so much in the leadership position. It's not only because women are not capable, it's not true. You know, women of Afghanistan has the capability and commitment towards the development of Afghanistan. The issue is that the man of Afghanistan needs to accept women and implement the constitution. And we have our rights, Islamic rights, and also our national rights to participate. And the solution for that is to doing a lot of to be unified, to strengthening the cooperation mechanism between civil society and the government of Afghanistan, and also to be accountable and promoting the system and the rule of law, good governance, and to implementing the law and policies in Afghanistan. However, we have our good laws and policies, but how to ensure implementation of that, how to have a responsible judiciary and judges who accept the women's rights. It's a big, long way to go, but we are optimistic that as you see the changes since 2002, we are not anymore those women that we are not excluded. So this will happen, but it takes time and patience and long way to go.
Thank you, Myra. Can I pass it to Wajma and then to Mary and then to Afifa and then to Soraya?
I'd like to answer, actually again I'm going to the international community, because when you are working for a community, we have recommendations from the community, for our civil society, for our people. Because people are too tired of the war, they're ready to actively involve in the all process, development process and also peace process. But the problem again comes to, for us, if we are recommending, again, we need money. If we need good media, then we need also good government to have good opportunity for the people. People who are so tired, who are losing every day their lovely member of the family. They need the needs and they want to do it. But needs again international support. There is again costable, because if the media not work, or the media in Afghanistan also so expensive to give message to the people, then again needs as Afghanistan as depend to the because of the money to the outside the country for the international community. We need support for that. We need again support for working with the community to take part. Again, it is political pressure to the region also, because there is also needs of the people wanted to be part of the process, but the intervention of the region because of the economic problem, because of their own political schemes, they makes confusion among the people. And also, on another hand, it is 10 years, people expect peace in Afghanistan, and they wanted to be part of the peace. AWN in 2001 had 100 recommendations for UN, for international community, which just came from the grassroots people. And they wanted how they can involve in the process, how they can play their role. But actually it was not work. And again, the community is ready to do, and also the civil society. But as a civil society, we think in this stage we need also to more hardly work with the people of the community for not only recommendation for our people, but also to work with them.
Thank you very much.
First of all, I want to say that the declaration that we are presenting is actually the voice of people. It is because they have come together, they have organized, and that's what they are telling the world, that we are not the people of 2001, we cannot accept to be more injustices happen on us, and we cannot accept that the schools are closed, or we cannot continue accepting that women cannot play a role. That is a very important message that I think this declaration is a testimony of. And what the issue you are talking about, the cultural changes or the social changes, as we have seen huge changes in the past 10 years, it will happen as we continue showing examples. In 2001, we started with less than 100 women in the police. Today we have 1,200. That shows that the people's mentality have been changing. And we are the generation of war. The world knows about us since 2002, since 2001 because of the September 11th incident. But we have been at a conflict, and not because of our own issues, but it is because we are situated in a country where, in a geography where our neighbors are very unfair to us. So in that condition, the past 30 years of war has really the current generation that we have, the mentality that we have, this is the mentality of war. They have either learned it in the refugee camps of Pakistan or behind the mountains fighting. We did not have a system that have been working to change it, or to bring the changes that the Europe or the other Western countries have been able to bring. So we believe that as the people continue taking part into the national processes like transition, like reintegration, then they continue accepting it. Our Minister of Health, when we talked to her, she started saying that in 2001, I was not allowed to enter Ministry of Health as a woman. Today, I run that ministry.
Thank you very
much.
And
that's a huge change.
Thank you very much, Rajma. I will pass to Mary next. If I could ask each of the ladies to speak closer into the microphone so they can hear you on live stream, that would be wonderful. Thank you very much. Mary?
Just very short answer. Everything is possible, and we are in the process. And there is need for educating and advocating, especially Afghans, because Afghans were not naturally violated. That was 30 years, more than 30 decades of war that they became violent. And now we are in the process and we're proud. We see a lot of positive changes, and inshallah everything will be alright if we have commitment and support of others, sisters around the world. Because women movement needs solidarity and contribution from other women. And we are there, and the grassroots, and we are there, and we promise that everything will be alright, inshallah.
Thank you. A last brief word from Samira, and then we shall pass to the next question. Thank you.
I think I fully understand how the life has been for the women in Afghanistan. Work has been done. You see us here is an achievement. Afghan women were not capable of doing this 10 years ago. But we are here. We came independently. We came just independently. We decided that we need to do this. We need to raise the voice of Afghan women, and we said, let's go and do it. But the experiences show that we need to have international support behind us. We need to have colleagues and supporters who are outside Afghanistan. When we were doing our advocacy inside Afghanistan, there were hundreds of organizations organizing campaigns throughout the world. Green Scarf campaign, Solidarity campaign, Candles campaign, to support our messages. So we need that sort of support as well, so that our people in Afghanistan also realize that Afghan women matter to everybody, and everybody is watching them. That's how life will change. That's how people will improve. Besides that, the technical support that's given to Afghan women by organizations like within our trips right now, Institute for Inclusive Security, CARE Germany, CARE Afghanistan, they are international organizations. They have their standards, they are well recognized. But the way they have contributed to assist us in this trip is something that we need more. And we need it at the national level as well. That's how, like at the moment in Afghanistan, everybody is watching what we are doing here. So that's, it's not like even the man, they are not taking us seriously. They do take us seriously. They sometimes even consider it as a challenge.
Thank you. Is there a further question? Yes, please. Could you approach one of the microphones, please?
One of the things that we've been hearing is that after Bonn there will be a pledging conference in Tokyo where the international community will actually pledge on aid commitments for the future. I'd love to hear from all of you what are the key commitments you would like to see the international community pledge against for the women of Afghanistan? What are the areas where you really need to see the most support?
Thank you very much for asking that question. That is really very important because, as we really do know, the world is entering an era of their economy that there's not going to be a lot of money to go around, and especially help Afghanistan. So these pledges are going to be counted in every second and every penny of it, I'm sure. The most important thing that we would like the pledges to be for the women of Afghanistan, if I have understood your question clearly, we would like the pledges to go towards women's education, health, and empowerment. This is the most important three areas that the women of Afghanistan really do need the pledges to go to. And the most important thing that we really also would like to mention and add on, it's not only the money that will be coming to Afghanistan, the pledges. This time, we like to make sure that this money is going to be spent on the women of Afghanistan, because there's a lot of pledges that throughout the years have been given for the development of the women, for the health, for education, specifically for women. But it was never spent specifically on women. So this time, what we are hoping for the internationals to do is to put some kind of a mechanism so that the money that will come to Afghanistan for this will be spent for the needs of the Afghan women in the areas that the Afghan women need, and they should be answerable to the donors that have given the money, and also to the government of Afghanistan. Thank you.
I think Mahbajan answered the question, but since 10 years we really rely on outsider donation, and aids came to Afghanistan. But the most important, how to accountable the government of Afghanistan, because if we just send aid to Afghanistan without emphasizing or conditionalize that a specific portion money goes to women's empowerment, especially education, health issue, and economic independency, which make us empowered and stronger to live away from violence. Otherwise, we will suffer and suffer. And the same thing, the money which comes to Afghanistan through non-governmental organizations, we also want international community to have a very specific recommendation, or also specify a portion of that money for women's project or women's empowerment. Generally, it is coming without any conditions. That's what our expectation is this time.
Thank you, Shana. Mara.
I think my colleague already mentioned that what are the top priority, but I wanted to also add about our expectation for the transition, that it has to go hand in hand with progress, development in the governance and rule of law and implementation of the law in Afghanistan. For us, security means access to justice and implementation of the law to protect women from gender-based violence and criminalized GBV violence is very, very essential.
Thank you.
Of course, there is a huge range of need for women of Afghanistan to be, pay attention for that, which many of them, my colleagues, raised very well. And one very important area, which is the upcoming election of Afghanistan, which we really need our voices to be there, and transparency should be there, and a very strong monitoring system should be there to watch if there is anything going wrong. Because we have the experience of the past election, which wasn't a fair election as we expected, despite all the huge amount of money which was allocated for that. So we need that area to pay attention for that as well. Because, and generally we know that whenever international community committed to Afghanistan, they have their own agenda and sending the money according to the project that they are designing with themselves for the people of Afghanistan. We would like the international community give the opportunity for Afghan people to design the project with the people of Afghanistan and for the people of Afghanistan. Because many of the projects are designed out of Afghanistan, they are not implementing in Afghanistan. They are implemented, but the result was nothing at the end of the day. Because still after 10 years support, still many donors are looking at project-based activities in Afghanistan, and they are not turned to long-term program based in Afghanistan. So the report shows that out of $286.4 billion in Afghanistan has sent in the past 10 years, only 9.4% of those amounts went or directed to humanitarian activities. The 90%, more than 90% was spent in military operations. So our message for the international community will be to channelize the money or direct the money to humanitarian activities, which is, economical development, which is, the social security. Security is not meaning just to fighting and bring peace. That will be a ceasefire if the justice are not there, if the social security are not there, and fighting does not bring security, as the story has shown us. So we need to turn the money to the economical development, human rights, and also social security for everybody. At the end, justice will be there. We hope for that.
And also one thing which is really our colleague mentioned regarding coming election is very much important. I think will clear another our future destiny for Afghanistan, people of Afghanistan. We really need the support of our friends and support of international community to help Afghan women in coming election, because most of the area people are going towards election without understanding what's the value of their votes. And women's awareness and women's mobilization or civic education is very much important. So this message should reach to each houses so women will understand and then they can participate. So their political participation in political processes is very much understand, and also their security during this political process are also very much important. Our old experience shows that most of our votes, women's votes were cast by men or male member of the family or the community, which is maybe it wasn't our equal participation, or maybe we don't want the vote goes to somebody which we don't want it. So women's awareness and their safe participation during the political process is very much important for us.
Thank you, Shinkai. I'd like to take one more question, and then all of the women will be available for individual discussions with each of the journalists afterwards. But may I take a final question from the group? approach the microphone? Thank you.
My question is, could you share any reflections on your main hopes of the outcomes of this Bonn conference, or maybe fears, like what would be a good result or what would be sort of the worst result in terms of what might come out? I understand that there's supposed to be a communique issued probably tomorrow, which President Karzai and the Afghan government are leading on with the participants. So from your recommendations or from your discussions with the diplomats around this conference, what are you hoping to see in that?
May I ask Samira and then Wajma to take the floor?
Thank you. I think you can't leave the half of the population of Afghanistan behind by making decisions. The expectation is that the result of our advocacy should be seen in the discussions today in Bonn conference. We need to hear more from international community on their clear commitments for empowering women and for continuing their support to Afghan women for the coming years. As well as for our government, we need to see strong commitment from our government. The fear is, but it's a very, very personal view, is that if the commitments are not described clearly, then that's a fear. What does the commitment mean? If for example, the U.S. government is saying that we are committed to support Afghanistan, yes, commitments are a lot, it's general, but specific commitments for Afghan women is something that we are really expecting. Thank you.
Out of the Bonn conference, we want the Bonn conference to coin a new tagline for Afghanistan. And that tagline should be the Afghan women are the only key towards peace and reintegration, not the warlords or not the tribal commanders that currently is being happening. So the Bonn conference should, I think the reason I'm saying is that in the London conference, our advocacy resulted in the issues of women's rights as a grid line for the peace and reconciliation. And that has been effective in our advocacy, that the world and our government has been taking it seriously, that women's rights are the red line of the reconciliation. Bonn conference should take it one step further, stating that the new tagline is that Afghan women are the peace builders of this country.
And I just would like to add and conclude that we hope that the international community take responsibility for women's rights and not put everything for the government of Afghanistan. Because we women clearly support the peace and reconciliation process, and it's our dream to give an end to the continuous violence. But it has to be internationally accepted standard, both in the terms of women inclusion and final agreement. We really don't care who will rule the government of Afghanistan in the future and who will control the affairs or who will hold the powers, but the primacy of women's rights has to be accepted.
Just the last point, as today, this morning, we heard from friends and as well from other delegations. It really gives us more hope, and we're optimistic. As we're more optimistic, there is no other choice, because everything will be happen. But except that we be optimistic, there is no other choice. That's why that we take everything in a positive way, and inshallah, everything will be all right.
We're also expecting from Bonn conference for a very responsible transition, not just transition or like a military transition, and also looking forward to help us regarding the regional cooperation for bringing sustainable peace to Afghanistan.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all who have come, and of course thank you to our wonderful representatives of Afghanistan's Women Network. I'd like to extend to the group's great thanks to the Deutsche Welle Studios, who have been so generous in their support in hosting today's event, and in fact hosting a couple of events yesterday as well. Deutsche Welle has gone beyond the order of duty to make sure that these women's voices are heard, which is their mandate, I realize, so we do appreciate that support very, very much indeed. So thank you for coming, and please do stay, enjoy some more breakfast, and do feel free to meet with the women in the coming half an hour. I know they would be pleased to answer any further questions you have.